Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a story that, well, it captivated millions, sparked global debate, and undeniably blurred the lines between ancient history, religious mystery, and, the modern thriller. We're talking about Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. We've assembled a pretty comprehensive stack of sources that peel back the layers of this fascinating phenomenon, giving you a shortcut, basically, to understanding its immense impact and the ideas it brought into the mainstream.
Indeed. And our mission today is really to unpack the most compelling claims and controversies surrounding this book. Everything from its explosive, clue-driven plot to the deeply entrenched historical and theological ideas it's so provocatively challenged. You might think you know the story. But we're here to explore what's truly at the heart of this deep dive, really digging into its most startling assertions and, the reactions they provoked.
Absolutely. So we'll start by examining the book's core premise, its sensational global success, which was just huge. And of course, the intense accusations of historical distortion it faced from, well, pretty much all corners. Then we'll take a deep look at the enigmatic figure of Mary Magdalene, her portrayal across different traditions, and this ancient concept of the sacred feminine that the book really places at its very core.
Right. And from there, we'll delve into the shadowy world of secret societies, specifically the Priory of Sion and the Knights Templar. We'll explore how their purported roles intertwine with the legend of the Holy Grail. And crucially, we'll examine the book's interpretation of the Grail, which is pretty revolutionary. Not as a cup, but as something far more profound and, well, some would definitely say controversial.
Yeah, you can say that again. And we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't investigate the intricate mechanics of the cryptex, those symbolic keys, and the honestly dizzying web of clues, ciphers, and anagrams that drive the whole narrative forward. We'll also dissect the book's most challenging controversies, including its claims about Emperor Constantine's alleged role in shaping early Christianity, and the challenging notion of hieros gamos, or sacred marriage.
And finally, our journey will trace the trail all the way to Rosslyn Chapel, the supposed final resting place of these ancient secrets, before we kind of reflect on the enduring power of mystery and, knowledge itself. So let's unpack this.
Okay, let's begin with the phenomenon itself. Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. The story just immediately plunges you into this high-stakes hunt for the Holy Grail. It's kicked off by a really shocking crime in the Louvre. The museum's curator, Jacques Saunier, is murdered. He's found posed like Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. There's a pentacle drawn on his chest in his own blood. And a scrambled Fibonacci sequence left behind. It's quite the scene.
Yeah, very dramatic. And this cryptic scene immediately draws Harvard symbologist Robert Langdon into the thrilling chase. He's partnered with French cryptologist Sophie Neveu, who turns out to be Saunier's granddaughter. The opening is just perfectly designed to pull you in, isn't it? Weaving together art, history, and a modern thriller right from the very first page.
It really is, and pull people in it certainly did. What's fascinating here is just how explosively successful this book became almost overnight.
You're absolutely right. The commercial success of the Da Vinci Code was, well, truly phenomenal. A global phenomenon, really. It became an international bestseller, translated into over 44 languages, selling literally millions upon millions of copies worldwide. It was everywhere.
Just to give you a sense of scale, the Anchor paperback edition alone moved 5 million copies in March 2006, just one edition. That kind of widespread popularity inevitably paved the way for a major motion picture adaptation.
Right, directed by Ron Howard, starring Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And the film, despite facing, significant controversy and a rather negative critical reception overall, it still managed to gross over $760 million worldwide, which at the time was Sony's highest grossing non-Spider-Man film. That really speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the book's immense cultural penetration and its ability to just capture the public imagination.
That level of commercial success is truly astounding, especially when you contrast it with its reception in literary and historical circles. It really highlights a fascinating disconnect, doesn't it?
It really does. And here's where it gets particularly intriguing. Despite all that commercial success, the book faced significant, often, frankly, scathing criticism on various fronts. From a literary perspective, some critics, like the renowned Roger Ebert, didn't hold back at all. He labeled it a popcorn thriller, or even fool's gold, suggesting the writing was, simplistic, almost formulaic. And our sources show one Reddit user captured this sentiment quite perfectly, stating the book wasn't aiming to be literature, it's aiming to be a widely read mystery thriller that makes money and sells books. which, you have to admit, it undeniably succeeded at.
Oh, absolutely. Another user flatly put it, I do not personally think Brown is a good writer. I read the Da Vinci Code and I understood the criticisms immediately. Yet, for so many people, it was just pure entertainment. Its engaging opening and compelling mystery proved more than enough to hook them for the ride, regardless of literary merit.
But the more significant controversy, and certainly the one that sparked the most heated global debates, revolved around accusations of historical distortion. This is where the book genuinely challenged established narratives and, well, often crossed the line for many scholars and religious institutions.
Precisely. Theological author Marcia Ford was particularly vocal on this. She criticized Brown for essentially twisting and fabricating history. She argued quite powerfully that fiction that purports to present historical facts should be researched as carefully as a nonfiction book would be.
That's a key point, isn't it? Critics consistently highlighted how Brown presented many fictional elements of his narrative as absolute historical facts within the book itself, blurring that crucial line for millions of readers who might not have had the background to discern fact from fiction. This distinction, or maybe the lack thereof, became a real flashpoint.
And the controversy wasn't just confined to critical reviews either. The book even faced multiple plagiarism lawsuits, which just amplified the debate around its historical claims and originality.
That's right. Author Louis Perdue alleged Brown copied elements from his novels The Da Vinci Legacy and Daughter of God. However, the court ruled there was no substantial similarity, ultimately dismissing his claims.
Right. But more famously, authors Michael Bagent and Richard Lee sued Brown's publisher Random House, claiming plagiarism from their own meticulously researched book, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail.
And during the court case, Brown himself confirmed that he named a character, Lee T-Bing, as an anagram of their names, Bagent and Lee, a detail that, only fueled the speculation.
It certainly did. But the judge, Peter Smith, ultimately ruled against Bagent and Lay, stating quite clearly that a novelist is free to use historical ideas in a fictional context. And then, in a rather amusing twist for a case about hidden codes, Judge Smith famously hid his own secret code within his written judgment.
He did. A cryptic message of seemingly random italicized letters spelling out a phrase from an old computer game. A very clever nod to the book's themes, you have to admit.
Definitely. This really brings us to a key insight, though. What is the implicit agreement between an author and a reader when a fictional story claims to be based on facts, especially when those facts challenge deeply held beliefs?
Exactly. Our sources highlight that the Da Vinci Code uniquely fractured that implicit agreement, because millions of readers genuinely believed its fictional claims were historical fact. And that sparked this critical reevaluation of how historical fiction is consumed, and importantly, how religious history is perceived by the broader public.
The intense public debate clearly highlighted how deeply people care about the historical integrity of religious narratives and figures.
Right. The controversy, in essence, prompted a huge surge in further reading and critical inquiry. You saw works like Jonah Caccella's The Saintly Sinner, the 2,000-year obsession with Mary Magdalene coming out, directly because of the conversations that, Dan Brown's book ignited.
Okay, so now let's dive deeper into one of the most controversial figures central to the book's claims, Mary Magdalene. Historically, she's a figure of immense significance, obviously. But the Da Vinci Code portrays her in a way that just challenged centuries of Christian tradition, turning her into the linchpin of a massive cover-up, the very key to understanding the book's central mystery.
Her portrayal, or maybe reportrayal, in the book is revolutionary precisely because it contrasts so sharply with her traditional image. And to understand that, we really need to first look at how she's presented in the canonical Gospels.
That's a great starting point. So, all four canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they consistently agree. Mary Magdalene was the first person to discover Jesus' empty tomb, whether she was alone or with other women.
Right. And the Gospel of John, in particular, dramatically emphasizes her role. It depicts her as the first individual to see the risen Jesus alone, initially mistaking him for the gardener before recognizing him and crying out, Rabboni, which is Aramaic for teacher.
Yeah. Jesus then instructs her to go and tell the other apostles the good news, a directive that has led to her being uniquely described in some Christian traditions as the apostle to the apostles.
Which is a significant title. However, it's worth noting, an earlier pre-Pauline creed, preserved in 1 Corinthians 15.38, that actually credits Simon Peter as the first to see the risen Jesus, and it makes no mention of Mary Magdalene or other women at the tomb.
That's interesting, that difference in emphasis and her absence in those earlier creeds. It provides a kind of historical backdrop for the book's claims of suppression, doesn't it?
It certainly provides an opening for that interpretation. And this is where the Da Vinci Code really capitalizes on alternative historical sources. What's truly fascinating here is how various Gnostic texts present a dramatically different view, a view which is heavily leveraged in Brown's narrative.
Absolutely. For those maybe unfamiliar, Gnosticism was this diverse set of early Christian religious and philosophical movements, flourishing in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. Unlike mainstream Christianity, Gnosticism generally emphasized gnosis, this secret esoteric knowledge acquired through personal experience as the true path to salvation, rather than faith in Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection alone.
And many Gnostic texts were suppressed by the nascent Orthodox Church, because their teachings often diverged significantly from what became canonical doctrine. In writings like the Dialogue of the Savior, Pistis Sophia, Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Philip, and the Gospel of Mary, Mary Magdalene is not just a peripheral figure, she's absolutely central, a pivotal character.
Yeah, these texts portray her as Jesus' closest and most beloved disciple, often suggesting she was the only one who truly understood his esoteric teachings. Her profound closeness to Jesus frequently leads to tension and, well, outright conflict with other disciples, particularly Peter, who in these narratives expresses envy over her special teachings and, notably, her gender.
The Gospel of Philip, as translated by Marvin Meyer, offers a really tantalizing, albeit fragmented, glimpse into this intimacy. It states, "The companion of the game is Mary of Magdala. The four of her, more than the disciples, kissed her often on her hurt." Now, parts are missing, but this snippet hints at a level of physical and spiritual closeness that is just entirely absent from the canonical Gospels, providing very fertile ground for Brown's central thesis about her relationship with Jesus.
It's clear how these alternative narratives provided Brown with the historical counter-narrative he needed. But Mary Magdalene's image has been subject to, continuous reinterpretation, even within the mainstream, for centuries.
She certainly has. For centuries, Mary Magdalene's image and role were also significantly shaped by historical conflation and ongoing theological debates, often, frankly, to her detriment. By the late Middle Ages, she was commonly depicted as a penitent prostitute, a figure of remorse for past sins.
That portrayal could be quite stark, too. Like in Donatello's sculpture from around 1454, it shows her as this emaciated and toothless woman, worn down by years of hard solitude in her cave, an extreme example of her usual penitent ascetic depiction.
Right. But that contrasts sharply with other interpretations, like Giampitrino's painting from around 1515, which presents a very different image of Mary Magdalene as a woman who repents of nothing, who feels no shame or guilt. This demonstrates a clear divergence in artistic and theological interpretations that existed for centuries. It wasn't monolithic.
And the debate surrounding her identity only intensified during the Reformation, didn't it? Further complicating her historical legacy.
Indeed. In 1517, the leading French Renaissance humanist Jacques Lefebvre d'Étaque published a book arguing against the conflation of Mary Magdalene, Mary of Bethany, and the unnamed sinner in Luke. His views were met with widespread opposition, and by 1521, the Sorbonne formally condemned his idea as heretical.
Wow. Interestingly, Martin Luther and Huldrych Zwingli, prominent figures of the Reformation, surprisingly supported the composite Magdalene. Luther, known for his, let's say, more liberal views on sexuality than some of his fellow reformers, reportedly even joked that Christ himself had committed adultery 3 times, including once with Mary Magdalene. A truly provocative statement for the time.
Definitely pushing boundaries there. John Calvin, however, took a different stance. He rejected the composite Magdalene and criticized Catholics for believing in it. Due to her inextricable association with the Catholic teaching of the intercession of saints, Calvin demanded the abolition of her cult and the destruction of her images, viewing her through the lens of anti-Catholic sentiment.
So this complex historical evolution from beloved disciple to penitent prostitute and then a figure of fierce debate, it lays the crucial groundwork for the Da Vinci Code's radical reinterpretation of her identity, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. If we connect all this to the bigger picture, the Da Vinci Code fundamentally posits Mary Magdalene as the embodiment of the sacred feminine or divine goddess, a concept the book argues was actively suppressed by the early church to consolidate its patriarchal power.
And this concept of the sacred feminine, it's deeply rooted in pre-Christian beliefs, right? Where the world was fundamentally envisioned in 2 balanced halves, masculine and feminine. Much like the philosophical concept of yin and yang, These two forces were believed to work in harmony to maintain cosmic balance and order.
Exactly. For instance, a pentacle, often misunderstood or even demonized in modern context,
Oh.
is presented in the book as a pre-Christian symbol explicitly relating to nature worship and representing the female half of all things, symbolizing life, fertility, wholeness.
And according to the book, this isn't just some benign oversight. The central argument is much stronger. That powerful men within the early Christian church deliberately conned the world by systematically demonizing the sacred feminine, effectively obliterating the goddess from modern religion, and thus stripping women of their rightful place in spiritual life. It's presented as a conscious, calculated move.
And our sources highlight a particularly egregious example cited in the book, Malleus Maleficarum, or The Witch's Hammer, a notorious text published by the Catholic Inquisition. This text is dramatically described in the book as the most blood-soaked publication in human history, one that allegedly indoctrinated the world to the dangers of free-thinking women.
Right. The book claims Malleus Maleficarum instructed the clergy on how to locate, torture, and destroy these women, leading to the burning of an astounding 5 million women deemed witches during 300 years of witch hunts across Europe.
And these witches weren't just random individuals, according to the book. They allegedly included female scholars, priestesses, mystics, and even midwives. The use of medical knowledge by midwives, particularly to ease the pain of childbirth, was deemed heretical by the church, seen as going against God's rightful punishment for Eve's partaking of the apple of knowledge.
Which, the book suggests, gave birth to the concept of original sin itself. This narrative paints a really stark picture of the church actively suppressing a fundamental, life-affirming aspect of humanity, all for its own power and control, fundamentally altering religious understanding and the role of women within it.
It's a powerful and deeply controversial accusation at the heart of the book's worldview.
Okay, with that provocative historical backdrop set, our sources also take us into the clandestine world of secret societies, which are absolutely central to the book's narrative. We're talking about the Priory of Sion and its purported military arm, the Knights Templar, both presented as these ancient, interconnected organizations safeguarding a profound secret at the heart of Christian history.
It's the grand conspiracy theory that pulls all the threads together, isn't it? The book paints a very vivid picture of these groups as shadowy custodians of forbidden knowledge.
Indeed. The book claims the Priory of Sion is an extraordinarily old, covert brotherhood, a secret society with an unbroken chain of knowledge stretching back through millennia. Its alleged membership roster is, well, quite illustrious, featuring some of history's most cultured and influential individuals: Botticelli, Sir Isaac Newton, Victor Hugo,
And, perhaps most surprisingly, Leonardo da Vinci himself. Da Vinci is said to have presided over the priory between 1510 and 1519 as the Brotherhood's Grand Master.
Right. And this purported connection, according to the narrative, explains Louvre curator Jacques Saunier's deep passion for Leonardo's work, as Saunier was also supposedly a Grand Master in this lineage. The priory, as described in the sources, has a well-documented history of reverence for the sacred feminine, sharing spiritual ideologies with Da Vinci, including a concern over the Church's elimination of the sacred feminine from modern religion. This focus on the suppressed feminine divine forms a core tenet of their alleged secret purpose, driving their centuries-long mission.
And if the priory was the knowledge keeper, the Knights Templar were their muscle, so to speak. This military arm was tasked with a very specific and highly sensitive mission.
Exactly. Complementing the Priory of Sion were the Knights Templar, formerly known as the Poor Knights of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. They were purportedly created by the priory as its military arm, their alleged task: to recover and protect ancient documents from the rubble beneath the temple, a tantalizing reference to Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, where they were said to have discovered something truly revolutionary.
And this initial mission, supposedly, laid the groundwork for their rapid ascent to power. The Knights Templar rapidly expanded after Pope Innocent II issued an unprecedented papal bull.
Yeah, this powerful decree afforded them limitless power and declared them a law unto themselves, essentially making them an autonomous army independent of all interference from kings and local prelates, both religious and political.
With this extraordinary carte blanche from the Vatican, they amassed vast estates in over a dozen countries, becoming immensely wealthy and influential. They also pioneered what we might recognize as modern banking, extending credit and charging interest to bankrupt royals, further broadening their immense wealth and influence across Europe, turning them into a formidable power that, honestly, dwarfed many monarchies.
Their power, however, proved to be their undoing, didn't it? Leading to a dramatic and historically significant suppression.
It certainly did. By the 1300s, their influence became too great, perhaps too threatening, and Pope Clement V, working in concert with Francis King Philippe IV, devised what the book calls a military maneuver worthy of the CIA to quash the Templars and seize their immense treasure, thereby taking control of the secrets they supposedly held over the Vatican.
The plan was executed with chilling precision. Secret sealed orders were issued to be opened simultaneously by his soldiers across Europe on Friday, October 13, 1307. This date, in fact, has since become infamous as an unlucky day, cementing its place in popular culture as Friday the 13th, a direct result, supposedly, of this coordinated crackdown.
It's a testament to the power they wielded and the lengths the church and monarchy would apparently go to neutralize perceived threats.
What's truly fascinating here, and central to the book's premise, is the alleged centuries-long purpose behind these societies' elaborate secrecy, protecting the Sangreal documents.
Right. These documents, according to the book, were the true source of the Templars' immense influence in Rome, giving them leverage over the church itself. This extreme secrecy extended to the supposed location of what they truly guarded, hinting at a hidden truth far grander than mere earthly treasure.
The narrative positions these organizations as ancient custodians of a secret so profound it could destabilize millennia of established religious belief, underscoring the enduring human fascination with hidden knowledge and clandestine power, and how that power might be used to shape history.
Okay, so if you think of the Holy Grail as a glistening chalice, a literal cup, prepare yourself for a complete reevaluation. Our deep dive into these sources reveals that, according to the Priory of Sion and the narrative of the Da Vinci Code, the Holy Grail is not a cup at all, and its true meaning has been deliberately, painstakingly obscured for centuries.
Yeah, the book effectively takes a widely recognized legend and just reinterprets it through a linguistic and symbolic lens, transforming its very essence. The word itself provides the first crucial clue.
That's right. The term Sangreal, which is often used interchangeably with Holy Grail in medieval texts, literally translates to royal blood. This understanding derives from its linguistic evolution. The original French term Sangreal evolved into Sangreal and was eventually split into two distinct words, Sangreal, which we commonly translate as Holy Grail.
This seemingly simple linguistic shift, the book suggests, subtly but profoundly changed its meaning, from a bloodline to a sacred object, basically masking its true nature.
And this hidden meaning leads directly to the book's most explosive revelation, the true identity of the Holy Grail.
According to Priory of Sion lore, as presented in the book, the Holy Grail is actually Mary Magdalene. She is presented not merely as a disciple, but as the mother of the royal bloodline of Jesus Christ, implying a marriage and lineage that would completely upend established Christian theology.
So this radical theory suggests that she was Jesus' wife and the progenitor of a sacred lineage, a direct descendant line. The book describes her as the wronged queen, entombed with proof of her family's rightful claim to power.
Right. And this, the narrative posits, was a deliberate and vast cover-up orchestrated by the Church to maintain Christ's divinity and its own status as the sole conduit to God, fearing that the existence of a bloodline would fundamentally undermine its foundational authority and power structure.
It's a remarkable claim. And the book then takes it a step further, suggesting that once you understand this, you start seeing the Grail in its true symbolic form everywhere, subtly embedded in art and culture, just waiting for those with the knowledge to decode it.
And it uses Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper as a prime example, doesn't it? The book claims Leonardo painted the true Grail prominently within this iconic fresco. Specifically, the figure seated in the place of honor at Jesus' right hand is depicted as clearly female, complete with flowing red hair, delicate folded hands, and even the hint of a bosom. This, according to the theory, is Mary Magdalene.
And the reason many people miss this, the book suggests, is scotoma, a psychological blind spot where our brains, accustomed to certain ideas, literally filter out details that contradict our deeply ingrained perceptions, especially when confronting powerful, culturally ingrained symbols.
Yeah. It's also noted that some details were purportedly hidden by grime and clumsy repaintings before 1954, but they became visible after the fresco's restoration, revealing the truth.
It's a clever way to reframe perception, for sure. And it's not just The Last Supper where the book claims Leonardo hid these subversive messages.
Not at all. The Mona Lisa also supposedly holds hidden messages. Her enigmatic, knowing smile is attributed to her name being an anagram of Amon Lisa.
Right. Amon is identified as an Egyptian male god, and Isis, the Egyptian goddess of fertility, was anciently called Lisa. This interpretation suggests that the Mona Lisa is a fusion of male and female, carrying a subtle message of androgyny and divine union, symbolizing the balance of the sacred feminine and masculine.
Furthermore, it's speculated that Da Vinci, known as a master of riddles and a bit of a prankster, may have even intended the Mona Lisa to be a self-portrait, subtly embedding his own image. Computerized analysis, according to the sources, shows startling points of congruency between the Mona Lisa and Da Vinci's own self-portraits.
Even his Madonna of the Rocks is noted for its plethora of hidden pagan symbolism, further reinforcing Da Vinci's dark and mischievous side as a secret keeper, according to this narrative.
And the book extends this symbolic analysis to even more surprising places, like the works of Walt Disney, whom it hails as the modern-day Leonardo da Vinci.
It's an intriguing leap, isn't it? Disney is described in the sources as the member of secret societies and an avid prankster who loved hiding symbolism in his work.
Right. The Little Mermaid, for example, is described as a spellbinding tapestry of spiritual symbols related to the sacred feminine, Isis, Eve, Pisces the fish goddess, and repeatedly Mary Magdalene. Ariel's name itself is said to have ties to the sacred feminine and the holy city besieged in the book of Isaiah. And her flowing red hair is noted as another symbolic detail, echoing artistic depictions of Magdalene.
Intriguingly, the painting The Penitent Magdalene by Georges de la Tour, a famous homage to Mary Magdalene, is purportedly depicted within Ariel's underwater home in the film.
And in The Lion King, a more sophomoric prank is mentioned, where the word sex is visible in floating dust particles over Simba's head during one scene, though this is seen as less a conscious allusion to pagan human sexuality than simply an artist's inside joke, perhaps a reflection of Disney's alleged playful nature.
This raises an important question, though. How do these cultural interpretations, whether they are deliberate artistic choices or perceived coincidences, reinforce or challenge our understanding of ancient beliefs and religious narratives?
The book strongly argues that the church had a profound motivation to obscure this truth. It needed to convince the world of Jesus' exclusive divinity. This, the theory suggests, necessitated the omission of any gospels or historical accounts describing his earthly aspects, specifically the potentially revolutionary notion of Mary Magdalene's marriage to Jesus Christ and their bloodline.
Such a revelation, it is posited, would have fundamentally undermined the church's claims of being the sole conduit to God, shifting power away from the institution and back to, well, potentially the individual or the lineage itself.
And within this framework, the book introduces the concept of the end of days. But it's crucial to understand that this isn't the apocalyptic end of the world that many might immediately assume.
Precisely. Instead, the Priory allegedly planned to release the Sangreal documents at what they referred to as the end of days. But this referred to an astrological prophecy marking the end of the age of Pisces, which is said to have begun at Christ's birth and spanned 2,000 years.
This period waned with the passing of the millennium, transitioning into the age of Aquarius. This transitional period, according to some in the church and as interpreted in the book, is metaphorically called the end of days, a shift in cosmic eras rather than a literal global catastrophe, implying a time when humanity would finally be ready for a profound truth.
Okay, let's talk about the puzzle at the center of the Da Vinci Code. The mechanism that drives so much of the thrilling chase, the cryptex.
Right, this device, supposedly invented by Leonardo da Vinci, described as a vault for storing secret information. It's truly a marvel of ingenuity, isn't it? A stone cylinder with 5 password dials, each containing various letters, and a really clever fail-safe mechanism.
Yeah, inside there's a fragile vial of vinegar, designed to rupture and destroy the delicate papyrus document if the cryptex were forced open, making it an ingenious and formidable protective mechanism for ancient secrets.
It's more than just a clever lock, though. The book elevates the cryptex to a symbolic object in itself, connecting it to a much broader concept of hidden knowledge.
That's right. The cryptex itself is referred to as the keystone. Architecturally, a keystone is that central wedge-shaped stone at the very top of an archway that not only locks all the other pieces together, but also bears the entire weight of the structure.
This concept, the book suggests, ties into the early Masonic Brotherhood, where keystones were part of their secret knowledge and rituals, symbolizing both wealth and secrecy, reflecting the Masons' carefully guarded trade secrets in Masonry. In the narrative, the Priory's keystone is more than just a device. It's an encoded map, a crucial item revealing the precise hiding place of the Holy Grail, It's basically the key to everything.
And the journey to unlock this keystone involves navigating a series of intricate clues and ciphers, each one a puzzle designed to test the seeker's intellect and knowledge of history and symbolism.
The first step in this intellectual scavenger hunt is Louvre curator Jacques Saunier's final message, scrawled on the floor beside him. It included a Fibonacci sequence that was intentionally put out of order, 13-3-2-21-1185.
Right, and alongside this he left a startling anagram. "Oh, draconian devil, oh, lame saint." Sophie Neveu, the cryptologist, quickly deduces that the Fibonacci sequence is simply meant to be put in increasing order, a simple misdirection.
And the anagram, "Oh, draconian devil, oh, lame saint," cleverly rearranges to become the solution to the first major puzzle, Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa. The message also includes P.S. Find Robert Langdon, which are revealed to be Sophie's secret initials, Princess Sophie, combined with the fleur-de-lis symbol, another priory seal, indicating her personal inherited connection to the secret society and its mission.
The book then cleverly weaves in a real geographical feature of Paris as a major plot device, adding another layer of sort of authenticity to its fictional mystery.
It does. The book incorporates the Rose Line, Paris's ancient prime meridian, which is physically marked by 135 bronze medallions embedded in sidewalks, courtyards, and streets on a north-south axis across the city.
This line, originally known as the Wind Rose due to its 32 points resembling a rose bloom on old maps, is associated with guidance and navigation, literally pointing the way. It serves as the key to finding Saint-Sulpice, the first destination for the keystone, hinting at its concealment beneath the sign of the rose.
Specifically within a rosewood box, inlaid with a 5-petal rose, another direct link to the sacred feminine symbolism that just permeates the narrative.
All these layers of historical and symbolic references lead to the ultimate puzzle, discovering the cryptex password, the word that unlocks the deeper truth.
Exactly. The poem guiding them to this crucial word states, "An ancient word of wisdom frees this scroll. A headstone praised by Templars is the key." They initially consider Baphomet.
Right, Baphomet, a pagan fertility god, often represented by a ram or goat's head, whose worship was falsely attributed to Templars by the Church in the suppression efforts to demonize them. However, Baphomet is too long for the 5-letter cryptex.
The actual password turns out to be Sophia, ancient Greek for wisdom, linking the solution back to the poem's subtle hint of an ancient word of wisdom, and reinforcing the book's theme of hidden truths being accessible through enlightenment.
This raises an important question, though. How do these complex layers of symbolism and historical references, whether they're true or speculative, draw us into a deeper quest for knowledge, even when the details are fictionalized?
It's a good question. What's truly insightful here is how the book, despite its fictional basis, leveraged our inherent human drive to seek patterns and hidden truths, turning millions into armchair symbologists and prompting them to question mainstream narratives.
Right. The narrative emphasizes that the chaos of the world has an underlying order, suggesting that even seemingly random occurrences can be decoded to reveal profound interconnected truths. It taps into our inherent desire to find meaning and patterns, inviting us to become amateur symbologists ourselves.
The elaborate puzzle solving within the book compels the reader to look beyond the superficial, implying that knowledge is not always overtly presented, but often concealed, waiting to be discovered by those willing to delve deeper.
Okay, so beyond the chase and the intricate puzzles, the Da Vinci Code introduces some major controversial claims about the very foundations of Christianity, powerful institutions like Opus Dei, and even the fundamental nature of spirituality itself. It really challenges established narratives head-on, inviting readers to question deeply ingrained beliefs about their faith in history.
And perhaps the most incendiary claim the book makes is about the very compilation of the Christian Bible, placing a pagan emperor right at its center.
Here's where it gets really thought-provoking, yeah? The book posits a provocative theory about Emperor Constantine's influence on Christianity. He claims that the Bible, as we know it today, was not divinely compiled, but rather collated by the pagan Roman Emperor Constantine the Great in 325 AD.
The narrative asserts that Constantine was a lifelong pagan, only baptized on his deathbed when he was too weak to protest, and that he served as the head priest of sun worship, specifically the cult of Sol Invictus.
Described as a very good businessman, Constantine allegedly chose Christianity as Rome's official religion because he recognized it was on the rise and saw an opportunity to unify his vast empire under a single faith, which at the time was suffering from religious turmoil and threatened to rend Rome in two.
Now, while Brown's narrative posits this direct, cynical manipulation, it's worth noting that mainstream historians often offer a more nuanced perspective on Constantine's personal faith and the complex political landscape of the time. His conversion is a subject of ongoing debate, right? Scholars often debate the true sincerity of his conversion versus its strategic utility in consolidating power within a fractured empire.
Absolutely. But the book's claim is direct. He merged paganism and Christianity for political gain. And to achieve this unification, the book claims Constantine fused pagan symbols, dates, and rituals into the growing Christian tradition, effectively creating a hybrid religion that was palatable to both pagan sun worshippers and the nascent Christian community.
This includes familiar Christian symbols. For instance, the Christian cross, it suggests, was originally an ancient male symbol, specifically the blade, a rudimentary phallus. Conversely, the chalice symbol, representing the female, was adapted from its pagan origins to become the familiar cup of Christian ritual.
The book also reinterprets the biblical narrative of Genesis, framing it as the beginning of the end for the goddess, where Eve's creation from Adam's rib made woman an offshoot of man, and a sinful one at that, effectively diminishing the feminine divine and solidifying male dominance in religious doctrine. This perspective challenges the very notion of divine inspiration for the biblical canon, suggesting a politically motivated human construction.
In support of this radical reinterpretation of the Bible's origins, the great canon Dr. Martin Percy is quoted as famously saying, "The Bible did not arrive by facts from heaven." This line really underscores the book's argument that the Bible is a human-edited compilation, rather than a direct, unmediated divine transmission, opening the door to questions about its historical accuracy and the motivations of its compilers.
It certainly prompts us to consider the layers of human influence on sacred texts. And the book pushes even further into controversial territory with its depiction of ancient spiritual practices and their alleged suppression.
Yeah, Sophie, the cryptologist, stumbles upon this disturbing ritual, involving masked men and women chanting and gyrating in a hidden grotto. Langdon, the symbologist, explains this as hieros gamos, which is Greek for sacred marriage.
He clarifies that this was not about eroticism, as we might understand it today, but was, in ancient traditions, a profoundly spiritual act of union. Historically, intercourse was seen as the means through which male and female could directly experience God and achieve gnosis, a profound intuitive knowledge of the divine.
This sexual union was considered man's only bridge from earth to heaven, a climactic instant when his mind went totally blank and he could see God.
This concept, however, posed a serious threat to the Catholic power base for the early church, according to the book. If individuals could commune directly with God through sex, it left the church out of the loop, undermining their self-proclaimed status as the sole conduit to the divine.
Consequently, the church worked hard to demonize sex and recast it as a disgusting and sinful act. A strategy, the narrative suggests, adopted by other major religions as well, all to maintain their institutional control and ensure followers relied solely on the clergy for spiritual connection.
The book points out that some secret societies still practice sex rites, keeping these ancient traditions alive. Although it notes that films like Eyes Wide Shut depict these rituals inaccurately, sensationalizing them beyond their purported spiritual intent.
This raises another important question. How do historical interpretations and institutional power structures influence what is considered truth and how it's presented to the masses? The book's narrative features such a complex web of motivations, doesn't it? From deeply held religious zeal and genuine belief to calculated personal gain and a desire to expose perceived historical wrongs.
Absolutely. And the characters themselves embody these varied motivations driving the plot and the overarching conspiracy. A central manipulative figure in this web is Sir Teabing, the eccentric British royal historian.
Right. He is shockingly revealed to be the enigmatic teacher, the true mastermind behind the pursuit of the Holy Grail.
Our sources reveal he orchestrated both Saunier's murder and Silas's violent actions, all with the ultimate intention of exposing the church for its alleged 2,000-year cover-up regarding the Grail and Mary Magdalene. Teabing views Saunier as compromised, believing he had lost his family due to the church's oppressive actions, and rationalizes that by facilitating his death and pursuing the Grail, he is righting a terrible wrong by revealing the Grail's truth to the world.
He brilliantly implicated Opus Dei in his complex plot, too, intending to bring about the demise of the entire church, seeing it as the only path to liberation from what he considers institutional lies and suppression of the sacred feminine.
And speaking of Opus Dei, how is this powerful and often controversial Catholic organization portrayed in the book?
Well, Opus Dei itself is portrayed as a highly conservative Catholic prelature, whose ascension to grace was jump-started in 1982 when Pope John Paul II unexpectedly elevated them to a personal prelature of the Pope, officially sanctioning all of their practices.
This occurred, the book alleges, the very same year the wealthy sect supposedly transferred almost $1 billion into the Vatican's Institute for Religious Works, commonly known as the Vatican Bank, bailing it out of an embarrassing bankruptcy.
The Pope also fast-tracked their founder for sainthood, accelerating a process that usually takes a century to a mere 20 years, raising further suspicion within the narrative about the motivations behind their rapid rise.
Opus Dei members, like the chilling monk Silas, are depicted as practicing corporeal mortification, including self-flagellation and wearing a spiked belt designed to cause discomfort, all as a means of penance and devotion.
Bishop Aaron Garosa, the head of Opus Dei, is portrayed as a devout but desperate figure who feels the church has lost respect and rigor. He accepts funds from the Vatican Bank to acquire the keystone, believing the teacher will make him the most powerful man in Christendom and restore the church's former glory, unknowingly being manipulated in Teabing's grand scheme.
And then we have Captain Bezoufache, the relentless French judicial police captain, who is initially Langdon's primary antagonist. What drives his pursuit?
Captain Bezoufache is initially presented as a really zealous investigator, driven by his strong Christian faith, signified by his wearing a crupsgemmata, a bejeweled cross, a symbol of profound devotion, historically associated with emperors and significant religious figures.
He is immediately convinced Robert Langdon is the murderer due to circumstantial evidence, including Langdon's name scrawled by Saunière in his final moments.
Fichache is described as having invested his entire savings in cutting-edge technology for his unit, making him exceptionally overzealous for a high-profile arrest to save his career and secure his lucrative pension.
Later, as the truth unravels, he realizes Langdon's innocence and shifts his focus to intense damage control, working to cover up his own errors in judgment and protect his reputation, demonstrating how deeply personal and institutional motivations intertwine within the narrative's central conflict.
Okay, so our intricate journey through the Da Vinci Code culminates at a location of profound significance, both in the book and an enduring legend, Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. The final lines of Saunière's poem provide the ultimate clue, pointing directly to this mysterious, ancient place. The Holy Grail 'neath ancient Rosslyn waits, the blade and chalice guarding o'er her gates. Adorned in master's loving art, she lies. She rests at last beneath the starry skies.
Rosslyn Chapel is truly depicted as the final piece of the puzzle, isn't it? A place shrouded in mystery and rumored to hold secrets for centuries.
Indeed. Rosslyn Chapel's significance in the narrative is immense. It's described as an exact architectural blueprint of Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, complete with a west wall, a narrow rectangular sanctuary, and a subterranean vault much like the Holy of Holies, where the original Knights Templar supposedly unearthed their priceless treasure.
This intriguing symmetry explicitly links it to the Grail's original hiding place, creating a powerful sense of historical continuity and legitimacy for the book's claims. The chapel is also richly adorned with Masonic carvings, reflecting its historical ties to Freemasonry, and its central ceiling is covered with carvings of stars and planets, directly referenced in the poem's Master's loving art and starry skies.
For centuries, whispers of the Holy Grail's presence have surrounded Rosslyn, and these whispers, the book notes, turned to shouts when ground-penetrating radar revealed the presence of an astonishing structure beneath the chapel, a massive subterranean chamber, seemingly confirming the long-held legends and sparking further real-world interest and speculation.
And it's at Rosslyn, where the symbolic heart of the book's interpretation of the Grail, the blade and chalice, is finally revealed, in a truly subtle way.
That's right. Another intriguing detail within Rosslyn Chapel is the interpretation of the blade and chalice. These symbols, representing male and female, are not overtly visible carvings on the chapel walls, as one might expect. Instead, they are subtly formed by the unique pattern of the worn path on the stone floor, which only reveals itself through a specific viewing perspective, almost as if you have to see it to believe it.
This highlights a recurring theme in the book, that there are many ways to see simple things, and that profound truths might be hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with the right perspective and perhaps a right mindset to uncover them. It speaks to the idea that knowledge isn't always spoon-fed, but discovered.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the most thought-provoking revelation comes from Saunière's wife, Marie Chauvel. who explains the true purpose behind the Grail's enduring secrecy. She challenges the very notion of a fixed end of days for its release, dismissing it as a legend of paranoid minds.
Marie reveals that the Priory has always maintained that the Grail should never be unveiled. This profound statement shifts the focus from a physical object or a shocking historical revelation to something far more intangible.
So for Marie, the true value in mystery is paramount. She states unequivocally that it is the mystery and wonderment that serve our souls, not the Grail itself. The beauty of the Grail lies in her ethereal nature.
She elaborates that for some, it might be a literal chalice promising everlasting life. For others, it's a symbolic quest for lost documents and secret history. But for most, she suggests, the Holy Grail is simply a grand idea, a glorious, unattainable treasure that somehow, even in today's world of chaos, inspires us.
This perspective leaves you, the listener, with a sense that the journey of discovery, the act of questioning and searching, holds more spiritual and personal significance than any definitive answer or physical artifact could. The true treasure lies in the human capacity for wonder and inquiry.
So what does this all mean for you, our curious listener? We've journeyed through a world where ancient history, cryptic symbols, secret societies, and controversial theological claims collide. All thanks to a modern thriller that daringly asks us to question everything we thought we knew.
From the profound re-envisioned roles of figures like Mary Magdalene to the hidden meanings supposedly embedded in famous art, this deep dive invites us to reconsider the stories that shape our understanding of the past and the narratives we accept as truth. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just a static collection of facts, but a dynamic narrative open to interpretation, and sometimes, radical reinterpretation.
This raises an important question for us all, doesn't it? In an age of information overload where we constantly seek shortcuts to knowledge and instant answers, how do we critically distinguish between verifiable fact and just a really compelling narrative?
The enduring popularity and controversy of the Da Vinci Code remind us of humanity's insatiable quest for deeper truths and the immense power of a good story to make us look closer at the world around us, to scrutinize what we've always accepted at face value.
Perhaps the true treasure isn't a physical object or a shocking revelation, but the act of searching itself, questioning and finding meaning in the symbols and stories that resonate within us, propelling us to learn more.
Exactly. Whether you're decoding a fictional mystery, grappling with historical debates, or simply appreciating the art of storytelling, remember that sometimes the greatest insights come from the journey of discovery itself, and the challenging questions we dare to ask, even if the answers remain elusive.
Keep digging, keep exploring, and keep thinking critically.
Until our next deep dive, stay curious.